Helen, it's good to have Dave and his buddies here today.
Yes.
Dave Becker Band out of Spring, Texas, or down near Houston, down near where you were.
Stomping
Where
ground.
you
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
school.
it's your old neighborhood.
Yes.
You were what? You're not far from there. We're in
Not at
Pine
all.
Forest,
No,
so.
very close.
So anyway, man, it's great having you guys come up. It was fun.
Thank you, Randy and Helen, both of you. First of all, this venue is amazing, and you guys are amazing for having the vision to put this together and the energy to make it happen. And we just are so blessed and lucky to be one of the people who's come through here and gotten to play. And I just really appreciate this whole evening. I'll never forget this. It's just been wonderful.
We'll all remember it too.
Yes,
you
we
brought
will.
you brought a taste of something new, but nostalgic at the same time in here, and that's been a while since that's happened. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I really enjoyed your songs. They were fun. I couldn't pick out one that I wouldn't listen to again and again and again. Mm-hmm. So that's the mark of something that's fun. Now, if I can just do my part and mix it down when the time comes,
You will.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not worried about that part. I'm still talking to myself about that last couple of notes I played. That's supposed to be my solo at the end of the show, and I didn't hit it like I wanted to.
Well.
But
I thought the show went real well.
I did too.
So tell us about Dave Becker. Where were you born and raised?
I was. There's not even a name for where I started out. It's easiest to think of it as about halfway between Abilene and Oklahoma.
That's quite a stretch.
Yeah, if you've heard of the 4-6 Ranch, I understand it sold to somebody recently. That's kind of amazing. But our family are farmers and ranchers, both mom and dad from the same area, just on the north side of the 4-6 Ranch. And so I guess the closest town there is Paducah, and then Childress. And so that was my early days. And as I mentioned earlier this evening, riding around in the pickup truck, listening to my, we didn't even have radio most of the time. It was listening to my granddad sing Bob Wills songs and Hank Williams songs. That was that and singing in church were my early exposures to music. Both grandparents had pianos in the house. My father's dad, my paternal grandfather, played clarinet in a big band, jazz band kind of thing at some point in his life, but mostly he just played those big old 78 records, played those jazz records, and he'd play along with clarinet. So when I would go to that set of grandparents' house, I would hear jazz music, and my sisters and I loved it. We'd put those records on and dance around and act crazy. It made us wiggle as kids. You know, that's what I remember about it. It made us wiggle.
Yeah.
And then the other grandfather driving around in the truck. Those were my early influences, and they really came back out in my writing. It's odd because I've played in all kinds of bands and written lots of kinds of music, but this latest phase of writing has really been all about kind of getting back to my own roots, and that's what I found out they were. I'm not sure that I knew that going in. It's only in hindsight, looking back at the music, I'm going, wow, I'm writing what I listened to at my grandparents' house.
Let's talk about those roots for just a second. You had taken them back to church and back to your grandparents' house, but at some point in time, you realized, hey, I can do this. I can both play and I can sing, and then at some point in time, you realized you could write and contribute back.
Yeah.
Other than just tell us about that, where that might have started.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was first searching for an instrument. I tried out all kinds of instruments early on, and settled on guitar for the simple reason that I grew up in the era of the Guitar Hero, and I could carry it around. I couldn't carry around a piano.
Right.
And it wasn't easy to get into a band with a trombone or something else. I wish I had learned to play the fiddle like my good friend Howard here, but I didn't have there were no fiddles in the bands that I was listening to at that time, so I didn't pursue that. But once I got into a band, the first band was at age 14.
Me too.
And we started learning songs. Of course, we had to learn the covers of the day, but I was always just finding myself making up new stuff, and started writing immediately. In that band, we had about 10 original songs. And
wow, at age 14.
Just so happened that the lead singer in that band was really good with lyrics. And it was just a chance happening. I would make up tunes and he would write lyrics, and people liked them, and I just fell in love with the idea of creating original stuff.
Right.
The tap opened up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it helps to play guitar and attract those cute little chickadees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was what I thought would happen.
Absolutely.
But if Darlin were here, she would tell you that was not what attracted her. She was actually worried about that. She's like, oh, I hope he's not going to be one of those flaky musician guys. She strung me along for like 3 years before I finally convinced her to marry me.
Oh, wow. Well, Randy and I, we were together for 12 and a half years before we married each other, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand, darling.
I just had to make sure she was going to stick around. You know?
Yeah, I had to make sure he was going to behave himself.
Yeah.
Not that he really does, but, we
we talked about being two sides of people. You got to find out how much of the time are you going to get that side of them versus how much of the time are you going to get that other side.
That's
Everybody's got
right.
those two sides, but it's the proportions that are the issue.
Right.
So you're hanging out in West Texas, and you're starting to play music, and you got a band, and you're 14. Take me a few years forward.
Yeah.
Bring me 4 or 5 years forward to where you're in your early 20s, and what
Okay.
were you doing at that time?
So the in between there, my family had moved to Amarillo, which for me might as well have been moving to New York City or Mars. It was a giant city, and had an amusement park with a roller coaster and a mall and
Cadillac sticking in the ground.
the Cadillac sticking in the ground. Yeah, Amarillo was a groundbreaking event for me. But that band that I mentioned at 14, that was shortly after I had moved to Amarillo when that happened. I'd just been a podunk kid playing guitar by himself most of the time before that. That band did really well, and we started getting a lot of jobs and playing around. Later on, like in high school, we would.
What years was this?
So this was mid '70s.
Okay.
Mid '70s. I graduated from high school in '77.
Okay. 9 years.
We had a scout came in from. I was working in the guitar store there, and so I knew all the musicians in town. Ironically, I didn't know Bob, our bass player, who was a prominent musician in town, but we just never crossed paths.
Oh, wow.
And one of the bands that was doing really well had a person coming in from L.A. to listen to them and possibly give them a record deal. And I started begging that guy he was telling me about this at the guitar store. I started begging him for the guy's contact. Just give me his name, give me his phone number, give me anything. Finally, he did, and I contacted the person, said, I understand you're coming through Amarillo, and I would just like to give you a cassette tape. That gives you some time frame. We had cassettes. I'd just like to give you a cassette tape of our band doing original material and see what you think. And he actually came to the music store and picked it up.
Wonderful.
And got back in touch with me about 2 months later. I didn't really think anything would happen. And he called me back, said, well, I listened to your cassette. It's really interesting, but he said, I need to give you some advice. Right now, I have no idea how I would market you. You're all over the map. You got a song of this genre, a song of that genre. There's no consistent style here, and that really, it was both disheartening and inspirational.
Right.
I started trying to find what is my sound, what is my
niche
and things. At about this same time, the lead singer in the band joined the Navy and left the band. He had joined much earlier, but he hadn't told us about it. And one day he came to practice and said, "This is our last rehearsal." I was the harmony guy. That left me as the vocalist. So that's the first time I was in front of the mic, is when he left. But it really kind of dissolved the band. We never really got the same things going, and I just decided, well, if I really want to do this, I'm going to have to do it on my own. So then I had to go back and start writing songs that I could sing. I've been writing things for him to sing.
For a band.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, and we were kind of a southern rock, style band at the time. And that's the changeover that really led me to here. When that band broke up, I had a choice of start over or just start by myself and don't be dependent on other people to pursue music. And that's when I put the electric guitar, sold my amps, and just started playing acoustic and writing songs that I could sing, which means, I had a range that was just right here.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're singer-songwriters are hard on themselves vocally. We got to realize that we're all unique, and it's the song.
Yeah.
When you punch that song out, it's the song, and if you're meant to do it, you're meant to do it.
So music has been your career. You haven't worked another.
Oh no, I've never been able to really pay the bills with my music. I've had to do other things, but I would say at about age 30, I had 2 of our 4 boys to support, and just didn't have time for music for a while. And we ultimately had 4 boys. And so from the age of about 30 to age 50, I just pretty much completely stopped. And
be surprised how many people we hear that
common.
from.
Yeah, it's just I just
definitely.
couldn't. I didn't have time. I was too tired. If there was ever a time, I was too tired to be creative. But the kids grow up like they do, and I started discovering I've got time.
Yeah.
And so I pulled the guitar out from under the bed and said, let's see what I can do now.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that for the first time, I could actually write songs about something, thoughtful.
And you had a lot more life under you.
I had some life under my
so.
belt, and it was easier to find subjects to write about.
Well, I would think another thing too is, especially having grown up where you had talked about having grown up, I believe that you will have heard a lot more songwriters by the time you get to that
Absolutely.
period.
Absolutely. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot more things at 50 years old than at 15 years old.
Right.
I've got a much bigger palette to choose colors from, and so it now, when this latest iteration of my music has been just a compilation of what's fun to play. I love playing guitar. I can play for hours and do daily. But what's fun to play, and what can I sing, and what do I want to say? And
how do I get all that in one?
And try to get all that in there. Yeah.
In 3 or 4 minutes.
I try to never do the 3 chords and the truth formula that you've heard. That works, but for me, it's much more fun to have 13 chords and a good story.
So what brought you to Spring from Amarillo?
Oh yeah, well just work.
Yeah.
Work. That's where the paycheck was. So
Right.
That's where we went.
Do any of your boys play an instrument, sing, write?
No, they're musical and they love listening to music. They're fans of music, but they never really. During the years they were growing up, I wasn't playing.
True.
My youngest son, whenever I did get my guitar back out, he was still home and like 16 or 17, and he said, "Dad, you can play the guitar?"
Yeah.
When you
the cool factor came back.
Yeah, it's
didn't
like, wow.
When you pick up the guitar after a lot of years, you go to what's really smooth and comfortable, but you're willing to branch off quicker.
Yeah.
When you come back around to it, in doing what we've done and talking to so many songwriters, there are some common themes. And one of those common themes is that people tend to get real creative as they get over 50.
Yeah.
And they get with their songwriting. We've Terry and would be and Terry and Jerry and Holder in Seattle, great example. Terry never wrote a song till she was 50 years old, but the first 4 songs she wrote all won international awards.
Yeah.
So, boom, it happens. So you're down in Spring. That's where you're basing out of now.
Right, and we play a lot of venues around there, but we've done a bit of traveling. Usually, the way it works is Darlene decides where she would like to go, and then I try to book gigs there.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah,
keep everybody.
That way, she'll go with me. If I just book them, she says, "Well, have fun."
Yeah.
Well, you have to understand all of the trial and error of writing and practicing the songs, not all the rehearsals, but a lot of the rehearsals are at our home. And so she's heard all the songs come into being and then heard them 20 more times as we try to polish them. And if there's not something fun to do, if it's just hearing the song, well, she's going to hear it 4 more times next week at rehearsals anyway.
Right.
So, yeah. Tonight does not count though, because we're about to fly up to Brooklyn, New York, to spend 3 weeks with our only grandchild, and she's home getting everything ready so we can go get on an airplane.
So when are y'all leaving?
Thursday morning.
Wow.
Wow.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
A couple of other questions that I have. One is, where would you like to be with your music, say in 4 or 5 years from now?
I hope I keep improving at writing, and I don't think I've written my best stuff yet. I really, in the songwriting scheme of things, I'm still kind of in my mid stage. I think I've definitely got a lot of songwriters around me down in Houston that are inspirations, and that's very helpful.
We know a lot of them.
Yeah. And so
Houston be loaded with good songwriters.
I just want to get better at it, and I'm going to keep trying to do that. And so that's one thing, I want to get better at it. But the other one is I want to have fun. I am at that stage of life between retired and too tired in terms of the regular job, and I want to try to do as much with this little window of time that I've been blessed to have as I can.
Right.
So find cool places to play like this. I would say today is an example. I'd like to be here in 5 years doing this again.
Well, let's just book it.
Yeah. I'd like to just be here and do this again.
Wouldn't be the first time I've booked that far out.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful having you and listening to everything and
having Howard here too. By the way, we need to mention that
he's a good guy. He's a keeper.
He's not just a clicker.
No. I got to say, when the writing started happening, it was just a very fortuitous thing that a mutual friend of ours introduced us, and I invited Howard to come over to my house and just see. I didn't know if he'd want to play my songs or not, but I had decided this: if I'm going to spend time working on it, I'm going to play my music. I'm not ever going back to the cover band business. I don't want to do that. There's people who can do it better than me. I just want to do me.
Yeah,
and
they can't do that better.
They can't do you.
That's right. I can always do me better than they can. I think
That's right.
Whatever that is. Anyway, long story short, Howard came over and we sat down for what was supposed to be like an hour and a half jam, and I don't know, Darlene had to come in and tell us it's time to go home.
She didn't even feed you dinner?
She's fed me dinner.
Oh, okay,
Oh
good.
yeah. She's quite a chef and takes good care of us. But yeah, we hit it off, and I think pretty much knew immediately, hey, we're going to have fun together. And Howard helps me write a lot by giving me feedback. He's got a good feel for where a song needs to pick up or where a song needs to relax, and he gives me that kind of real time feedback as we're figuring out how to arrange the songs and things.
Nice.
So how deep are you in songs right now of original music that you would go play? Are you 30 songs, 40, 50 songs?
We've got about 50. Yeah.
About 50.
Yeah,
So you could easily come
about
back
50.
and do a live show here with that.
Yes.
Okay. If
Yeah.
we,
Yeah. We play. That was an early writing goal. I wanted to be able to go do 3-hour gigs and do all original music.
Yeah.
And
not repeat.
And not have to repeat anything or pull out covers or whatever. And they're not all the same quality. But as the earlier ones, when I first got back into writing, if I got 1 out of 10 that I was happy to do in public, I was thinking I was hitting pretty good. And then it got to be 2 out of 10 and 3 out of 10 and 4 out of 10 I would add to the list. And so when I say 50, it's 50 that I would play for you.
Yeah.
And there's probably 150 more that it just never made.
Right. I totally understand.
And so
we again want to thank you guys for coming up, but also we hope you'll come back and see us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And know
We'd
you've
be
got
thrilled
another
to.
musical home up here in Central Texas. when you
Yeah,
can.
that's wonderful to know. Well, we sure enjoyed it. It's been an evening we'll never forget, I can assure you. The hospitality, the warmth of the people involved here, you certainly at the front of that. The quality of the studio and the stage and the sound and arrangements, just I don't know if we've had anything like this. So,
Well, we're honored to have you.
Absolutely.
And Helen puts up with this.
I don't put up with that. I'm part of it. It's,
Puts up with me and my excesses sometimes.
well,
one
it's
of those,
working.
Yeah, one of those is Dave Becker, and Dave, I very much. When you and I started talking, I remember I'm looking on Facebook, and I don't know if you contacted me first or I contacted you, but it was
Yeah.
Here's this Dave Becker, and I thought, I like this guy. I don't know why. I just kind of thought the way you approached me was so genuine, and it was not in a hot doggish fashion. It was, hey, I'd like to play there. It'd be an honor to play there. And it's an honor to have people like that come and play.
It
here.
is. It really
And
is.
you people are just exceptional. We liked
Thank you so much.
Liked you, and we love you guys, love your music, and hope you'll come back.
And
You
guess
got it.
what? We are in the music room.